Fantastic.
Please. Thank you.
Yes, my friends. Yes, very good. And we are about to get started. It's almost 8 o'clock. And today we have the presence of my friends. Yes, Flávio Batista. And we have my friend Fernanda Pimenta. The my my good friends, friends from the heart, partners. And I'm very glad to have them here. Uh, and I'm very happy to first of all introduce my Brazilian friends to my African friends. This is something important. Like yeah, these bridges between Brazil and Africa, I think they should happen continuously because I think Brazil is the most African country outside Africa, you know. So we have a lot of Africa in our blood, in our history, in our lives. My good friend Martin. Yeah, who would say, and Martin, that we'll be meeting every month? I think I will do this seminar throughout the year. So I meet my African friends every month. This guy here, Fernanda and Flavio Martin, the one driving. Pay attention to the road, man. He's one of the organizers of the festival, the literary festival that I was there in Ghana. Very good man, very good friend. And I think his presence here is fundamental. He's in Ghana, so here we at least we have two countries that are interested in this conversation. That is Nigeria and Ghana. Some people from South Africa are aware of this project too. The main plan is to share our culture incentive laws with artists and producers and creative people in Africa. And the main objective is to somehow develop these laws in their countries. So what we are doing here is to share our experiences, the what we have done, and I am translating the laws and I am translating the notices. It's a difficult word to translate, but I will call it notice of competition. But I don't know if it is the correct word, but I'm calling it notice of competition. The notice of competition is the document that the government provides, giving the guidelines for our production of projects that will be judged by some evaluators. And some projects, if approved, they will have the grant, the fund, or the right to collect the fund from companies, directly from companies. This is what Yuri in the previous meeting said. He was talking about the laws. So 3 past 8, I think I can get really started. So, my friends, thank you so much for your presence here. It's an honor to have so many people from Africa, from Ghana, from Nigeria here listening to this conversation. I really think this can be a powerful instrument to affect history. The same way it has affected Brazilian history, I think it can impact African history as well. We know that artists must be together. We must develop structures to give us power. So my first recommendation for the next steps is that in Ghana and Nigeria, you should create permanent forums of culture. So, well, I don't want to say that this is a homework or if you already have something like that. But I do believe the creation of forums, you know, in the capitals and but to create for permanent forums of culture where artists, writers, painters, actors, actresses, you know, producers, all kinds of people involved with art should have space to talk, to discuss together with everybody. So perhaps the starting point should be the creation of these permanent culture forums where these ideas can be shared, analyzed, studied, and perhaps you can have more power to come to policymakers, to politicians, and try to implement these laws. I have to say that it will be impossible to do any kind of this without political support. You will need to talk to politicians, policymakers, but it's important that you are prepared. It's important that you are already organized in the forums and you have found the voice to speak with these policymakers. So this is my recommendation because this is what we do. Here in Goiânia, in my city, we have a permanent forum of culture. And in this permanent forum of culture, we are always aware and attentive about what the government is trying to do with our culture incentive laws. These culture incentive laws, they are always under threat. The existence of these forums is a way to it to be aware and try to protect these laws from misuse from the government. Well, before I pass to my guests, Flávio and Fernanda, I would like to share our most recent document. This is how we received the document from the state. This is our official diary. And here we have Secretary of Culture, State Culture. And this is the document. It's an official document. So the document says, I am translating these documents to English, so please, hello Amara, good morning, my friend. So please
Good morning, Gustavo.
put your
Good
emails
morning,
in the
everyone.
chat, you know, all of you, put your emails in the chat because I'm creating a mailing list with
Okay.
these documents because
Put your emails in the chat.
because many of you are not in my WhatsApp list. So it's important to have your email so I can send you the translation of the law. So please write in the chat here. All of you, please write in the chat your email so I can share with you the translations. I am working in this translation right now of this law, and it presents how how the whole process works. You know, with the amount of taxes that can be discounted. But what I really wanted to show is how many different kinds of arts this law will finance, will offer the grant. Because this program here allows people to get the money straight from companies. So if you are approved, you go to the company and you say, instead of paying to the government your taxes, you're going to pay to me. So here is how many different areas: and visual arts, audiovisual, music, letters, which means writing, circus, dance, hip hop, theater, craftsmanship, file in terms of libraries, and historic files, libraries, traditional cultural expressions, museums, heritage, material and immaterial heritage, culture houses, culture points, digital culture, creative economy, gastronomy, fashion, design, uh, cultural actions in the municipalities. This is a problem right now. You know, this is a problem right now. This is a big discussion because here the government said we can use the money to do public work, you know, so the government can also participate. We are fighting against this right now. Festivals and so on. Here you can see the values and 1 million reais for actions in the municipalities, 1 million for festivals, 500,000 for the other segments. So it's 500,000 for these people. Not much money, but that's what we have. Well, saying these words, I don't want to take much of my friends' time because this is their time to speak. Well, again, thank you so much for your presence here. I feel honored to be with you once more. As I said in the beginning, Amara, I think I will do these meetings until December so I can meet my African friends every month throughout the year.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And so today we have my friends, my good friends, Fernanda Pimenta, and we have Flávio Batista. And Marcos Paulo, my friend from Brazil, is here too. And well, I will start with Fernanda and then I will pass to Flávio. Fernanda is here to talk about her experience with arts. She's an actress and she's a clown, and she is one of the most prominent actresses of this generation, you know, brilliant artist. And I will read a little bit of her CV, but just a little, because it's a very big CV. So, Fernanda Pimenta is a multidisciplinary performing artist whose work spans theater, clowning, audiovisual arts. She holds a doctorate in feminist clowning studies from the University of Brasilia. In addition to her pursuits, Fernanda Pimenta is an accomplished cultural producer, leading regional and international projects. Fernanda Pimenta. Before I pass to her, I would like to share with you her most recent work. Is just a teaser, so you can know a little bit of her performance. This is
Bora, guerreiras! Bora pra labuta! Tara! Companheira de trabalho, companheira de trabalho, profissional, né? Opa, peraí, opa! Yeah! Yeah! Uou! Yeah! Uou! Uou! Trabalho! Não pode abrir. Tranquilo! Tranquilo!
Você dançar um forrozinho comigo?
Adoro forrozinho!
Você arde dentro de mim que nem pimenta malagueta.
Well, this play is actually on the road right now. Yes, Fernanda is traveling, presenting this play, Malagueta na Labuta. And well, Fernanda, it's up to you. My African friends are all ears to your experience and what you can contribute to this thinking, to these reflections about cultural incentive laws and how they impacted your own career. Well, it's up to you now, my friend.
Oh, hello, everybody. Good morning. I think it's good morning for you also. Thank you, Gustavo, my friend, for your kind words. Very nice to hear this from you. Um, My name is Fernanda Pimenta. I'm a film artist, as Gustavo said, from the city of Goiânia, the capital of the state of Goiás, which is located in the middle of Brazil, in the central area. Firstly, I would like to apologize my basic English. That's why I'm reading for you. I haven't practiced for a while, so I ask for your patience because this I'm gonna read it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for this. And I'd like to thank you, my friend, my eternal teacher Gustavo Brito, for this invitation to be part of this wonderful thing. It's so necessary. It's not every day that we can exchange ideas with workers and representatives of futures of Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa. Uh, it's really nice to be here. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Gus. Well, starting with geographic borders, there is some difficulty in experiencing the cultures of of our peers, of countries and cultures that share similar scars arising from colonization processes. As a consequence of this, in today's world, we end up still consuming hegemonic cultures and their models to detriment of our cultures and our modes of expression. Therefore, it's so important to hold meetings like this in which we can see each other, learn about organizational and political actions, strategies that protect and promote the guarantee and access to art and its financing. I believe it's necessary to introduce myself a little bit to, to clarify which aspects of culture I work on. I started my artistic career in 2003 when I also started my law degree. For taking the theater workshop of the extension program at my university, the PUC Goiás, a very traditional private university here in in the city of Goiânia, where I live. I also awarded a scholarship for my law course through the theater. There was already a contradiction. Who would have thought that doing theater I would pay for my law studies? Since I started making art, I haven't stopped. I've developed various roles in the performing arts. I'm an actress, I'm a clown, I'm a director, playwright, producer, and researcher. I also work in animation, theater, and cinema. So today, I teach three acting courses for theater and clowning with some frequency. Currently, I have my group called Parandola Teatro Shift, in which I perform in two solo shows, one theater and one clowning. And in another show with guest artists. And I also work with two other theater groups here in the state of Goiás. In August, the last year, in 2024, I defended my PhD thesis on the same theme on the theme of feminist clowning at the University of Brasilia. I would like to emphasize that I've been self-employed for 20 years, and for 30 years I've been an individual micro entrepreneur. Gustavo, please correct me if I'm wrong, okay? If I make
Okay,
mistakes.
micro entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. That is, I can be properly hired and paid for my artistic services. I say this because getting into our topic, it is necessary for us to have a minimum bureaucratic structure to be able to propose and execute cultural projects. in Brazil. I also have an individual policy. As a film artist in a country that does not properly value all of its artists, I can't miss work opportunities. So whether to notice competitive law, uh, competition notices,
Yes, yeah.
and whether to notices to raise public funding or to test to act in film projects or in projects of other people, other groups.
So,
And how, yes,
Fernanda, I would like to ask you a question,
yes,
pretending that we didn't prepare. So, Fernanda, how did this incentive laws have impacted your career?
okay, this it was a lot, and I will explain you. Incentive laws impacted my career, make it a main source of income, despite being able to support myself through other jobs as well. Um, it it is important to emphasize that when I talk about myself, I am in fact within the reality of several artists and cultural workers in Brazil. I sell my products, my shows, my plays to the private sector through the sale of shows to institutions, to schools and events, and to the public sector through the funding notices. On public roads, I usually obtain resources through a municipal and state notices, which I will tell you a little more about it. However, I would like to highlight that my projects don't usually have the size of a project financed by federal law. Gustavo said a little about these laws. So the so-called Rouanet Law it is accused by many as a law that facilitates the delivery of public money to artists with the same ideology. It is a strong controversy hovers over the federal law, as art haters condemn the act of financing art in the country, casting suspicion on the mechanism. Federal law, the Rouanet Law, is accused of making it easier for artists to acquire public money. However, the law works through tax waivers. That is, companies support cultural projects with percentage of what would be used to pay federal taxes and fees. It should also be noted that the values of the projects approved in this law are high, starting at 200,000 reais. In other words, it's a lot aimed at large productions. It's not my case. Artists and productions linked to television, which have greater visibility, are generally those two chosen to receive support from companies. I have already approved two projects in this federal law, but I was unable to raise funds from the companies. The accountability for this type of project is very strict. Registration, registration is open for most of the year. Well, the municipal law of my city, Goiânia, also operates through tax waivers. This, this notice is aimed at small projects as the financing amount are very low, usually not exceeding 100,000 reais. It is also an incentive for the private sector. The tax used is ESSTN, is one service tax, is a kind of service tax. I approved 3 projects through this law, one for urban season and the other 2 for new theatrical productions. I also worked on 3 other groups projects that were proponents in this law. This law is annual, but it's not very correct. Sometimes they skip one year, or they get late. Well, the Goiás law from the state of Goiás also works through tax waivers. It is carried out through the ICMS, is a tax on the circulation of goods and services. This notice is aimed at medium-sized projects as financing amounts vary, with projects of different values which are not predetermined by the notice, but requested by the proponent. I tried 2 projects in this law, but they were not approved. It's difficult to get this law. Registration is open for most part of the year. Another recurring mechanism in the state of Goiás is the Goiás Art and Culture Fund. Unlike other notices that I've been speaking now, this is in the form of a prize. That is, the money is sent directly to the proponent without the need of fundraising, different from the municipal law, the federal law. The values here also vary depending on each modality. Accountably is less rigid than the other notices. I have already approved 3 projects in this law. It was supposed to be annual, but the state government recurrently skips years. It's normal. There are also federal emergency notices, which were created as a result of the COVID pandemic. The death of 2 great Brazilian artists led the notice to gain their names. That means the first to die from COVID was the composer Aldir Blanc, and the second was the comedian Paulo Gustavo. The Aldir Blanc and Paulo Gustavo's laws seek to temporarily finance Brazilian artists who have experienced many difficulties during this period of the pandemic, unable to work in person. I approved 2 projects at Paulo Gustavo's, which were carried out in 2024, and 4 at Aldir Blanc, 3 of which are being carried out this year. And I'm actually currently traveling. I'm in the middle of a circulation, one of my clowning show, which is part of a project approved at Aldir Blanc's law. This emergency notice lasts until 2027, after which they will be extinguished. But we artists from Brazil, we are organizing ourselves to make this emergency law to be continued.
Yes, to become permanent. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, to become permanent. There are also specific notices which are implemented by the federal government. This first notice I approved in my life was one of these, requested with the FUNARTE. That is the, help me good, who is the FUNARTE in Brazil? Is the
It's like a
institution
fund.
that,
It's a fund for arts, and they finance some experiences. It's also a
federal,
notice, huh?
Mhm. It was in 2012 when I approved my first project. It was through this law. With it, I was able to carry out at the age of 28 a 5-month artistic residence in Portugal. So, in view of all the above, I consider that the laws have impacted and are positively impacting my career in a way that allows me to carry out my job as an artist.
So I think this is fantastic from Fernanda because she is a full-time artist. She doesn't need to have a part job, work or do other thing to be an artist on the weekends. She is a full-time artist, and her income and all her life, all of her life is based on her art. So it's a profession in the most pristine way. It's a way of life, It's a way of life, and uh, not just because of the incentive laws, but you can see that the incentive laws have a great impact on the development of our artists' uh, careers. Oh, Fernanda, and what projects were developed with incentive laws and how did they continue? Because this is another thing. You get the money, you develop the project, and how does this project continue? These projects, they have a longer life. They will, or they are just, you get the money, you realize the play, and then it's over. I don't think it's much fair, to get it, to do it, and then it's over. So I would like to you to speak a little bit about the continuity of these projects and the afterlife, of after the law. Can these projects continue to walk on their own legs?
Okay. Uh, First, I'd like to say that when Gustavo said those things, uh, 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 I had the impression that it's easy to live as an artist in Brazil, but it's not. It's not easy. You don't have another job. It's not. It's not. I'm not sure that every month I'll be able to pay my my bills. Um, so it's not easy. But each of those projects that we approve and we execute, those projects, even when they don't have an obvious um, continuity, um, we still take some things of those projects. For example, in 2012, it was my first approval, as I said to you. It was a residence in Portugal, and it was remarkable because uh, I learned a lot about being a teacher and being an artist in a full time. And I will mention some of those projects, and for sure I carry a little of them, even though they're not. Uh, I'm not with those products, the plays and the shows right now. Even I'm not with those shows, those plays. I am with them in my experiences. So in 2014, I had a circulation in my state with my first solo show when the umbrellas opened. And Gus, can you show the photos of when the umbrellas open? Two
Yes,
photos.
of course.
And please.
This play, when the umbrellas open, I had the chance to have it performed in my school, and it's a very, very touching play because Fernanda is a clown. She's very funny, and she is actually very funny. And when she go, when Fernanda visits you in Nigeria and Ghana, you're gonna have a great time. I'm quite sure. And but this play, when the umbrella, you see, I'm a good producer. When the umbrellas open, it's a drama. You know, it's very, very touching. No, not this. When the umbrellas open,
It's a story about an old woman. It's about uh,
aging.
what is it? Aging and the proximity with the death. Um, so we circulated in Goiás. We had the chance in 2016 to circulate in Brazil. We did other 8 cities in Brazil also. Um, in 2017, we did a show Origins, which was a performative play, and all those projects that I'm telling you were through laws. Um,
Cultural fund, cultural fund, cultural fund.
all of
Yes.
them. In 2020, I had the opportunity through the municipal law to create my show of clowning, Malagueta Malabuta, which should be Malagueta in labor, maybe
Yes. Yes.
uh, the premiere took place online, followed by other screenings on different channels. Later on, there was the in-person debut in 2021. But in 2022, I had the opportunity uh, through the Culture Fund of Goiás to go to another residence, this time in Catalonia, just
Yes,
Catalonia,
Catalonia. Yes. In
in which the
Spain.
proponent, yes, yes, Catalonia in Spain. And so I had the opportunity to recreate my clown show, Malagueta in Labor, with the Catalan clown Peppa Plana, which for me
That is
is one,
so fantastic. Huh?
yeah, she's amazing, one of the best clowns in the world. And it was in 2022. In 2023, it was the second premiere in presence, in person. So we right now we are with this show Malagueta in Labor. We are going. Last year we in 2024 we made a circulation in the state of Goiás in 8 cities, and now we are going to 8 cities in Brazil. We are
Mm,
going to northeast in Brazil, which is an area of beaches and sea. It's a very nice area in Brazil. We we live in the center of Brazil, so to go there and to have this opportunity to play in Nordeste of Brazil, it's really really nice for us. So in 2023, we create the show A Orelha de Vicente, Vicente's ears, is
ear.
Jesus,
Yeah.
ears, which is the story of Vincent van Gogh, but for children. It's a sad story. The most of us, the most of us know the story of Van Gogh, but it was adapted from children, also through the municipal law. And now, this year, we are here with this first job of the year, the circulation. We we're going to spend 1 month in the circulation. Then when we come back, there's another project that is through the Aldir Blanc law that I told you. It's going to be a circulation around the world with the Lambi Lambi Theater. I don't know if you know Lambi Lambi Theater, but it's a kind of mini miniatura,
Miniature.
miniature theater, which is played inside a box. So you have small puppets, and it's really nice. So
Like
we're gonna,
puppeteering, some kind of
yes,
puppeteering, but
yeah,
it's
it's
small. Huh?
small, yes. It is a show about 2 minutes. It's individual, so you look inside a small
Ah, I see.
and you see the story with small puppetry. It's really nice. So we're gonna go to do 6 festivals in Spain, Portugal, and Bulgaria. So we are really happy. And for close this question, there is the Aldir Blanc law of 2024 that will we will have the maintenance of the group of the Farandole Teatro Circle, which is my group. This project will enable, after 13 years, the subsidy of activities for a period of 10 months, which will enable research for a new show, renovation of scenery and costumes, and acquisition of good furniture, such as microphones, or for the presentation. So we are very happy, and this year is a good year for us. So
That's so fantastic, Fernanda. Uh, well, first of all, I am a fan of your work, and I am very proud to see how far you have reached with your production, with your dedication, and well, it makes me very proud to see you as an artist, and also to to share these experiences, because every time Fernanda is on the stage, I always try to be there, on the openings, and it's so delicious. And also Fernanda is, every time we present the play of my group, Fernanda is there. So it's a good exchange. But Fernanda has a much longer career in arts than I do. So I think she's a very good example of how these cultural incentive laws, when they are well applied, they can really foster the development of art as the product, but of the artist as the individual. And this has a longer impact in society. This has a longer, and we cannot even imagine how far the impact of this production can reach. So, Fernanda, thank you so much for your words. I really appreciate that, and I think your experience shared with all these artists here can really, prepare the field for their energy to bring those cultural incentive laws into their lands. Yes, thank you so much, Fernanda. Well, our second guest is also my friend. And I have to say that Yuri was my student, Fernanda was my student, and Flavio was my student too. Yeah, this blue box here is a school of English. So, the second guest today, in this afternoon, it's a delightful afternoon here, delightful morning in Brazil. I believe it's an afternoon for you. It's a delightful morning in Goiânia. The weather is perfect. It's not hot, it's not cold. We have this beautiful blue sky. It's very tropical day. Well, in this auspicious day, I have here my friend Flávio Batista, that is a researcher, and his researcher is so important because he's doing something that, well, I haven't seen, which is a research about taxes and the relationship between taxes and inequalities in Brazil. So I invited Flávio to talk about his research. Well, you can see that Flávio is your cousin. You know, he's probably came from, his ancestor came from Ghana or somewhere there. And maybe Flávio, here in this room, you have a cousin. And I think Flávio really has to share his experience and his research with you, because I don't think it's very different from what we live in Brazil, how taxes are really responsible for our inequalities and the subdevelopment of our people. Well, I have to introduce Flávio, and Flávio has a big curriculum too, and I want to. So, Flávio, my friend, Flávio Batista, he is about to conclude his PhD in human rights. He was recently published in a big anthology of articles. So, before the defense of his thesis, the work has already been published, not translated to English yet, but we're going to do that, and Flávio. So he's about to conclude his PhD in human rights at the Federal University of Goiás. Flávio holds a degree in geography from the same institution. He's a researcher with the social, fiscal, or taxes studies group, where his primary focus is on fiscal policies, racial inequalities, slavery, racism, historical reparations, and human rights. His work provides a critical perspective on the role of cultural policies in addressing systemic inequalities and fostering transformative change. I asked Flávio to bring this research and to connect this research with cultural incentive laws, because we are talking about taxes, fiscal incentives. So, Flávio, it's up to you, man.
Good morning, my friends. Gustavo gave me a big task today. It's a truly an honor to be here with you today. I want to thank Gustavo Brito for the kind of invitation, my colleague, Fernanda Pimenta, for your support, and of course, all of you for being here. I'm not an artist like most of people here. I'm just a curious observer, and I hope to contribute in some way. I decided to connect parts of our research with the cultural investment policies. I'd like to divide my presentation in two parts. First, I will talk about the connection between tax, citizenship, and democracy. Then I will move off to discuss Brazil Federal Cultural Incentive Law, widely known as the Rouanet Law. I'm trying to talk a bit about the law, even though Gustavo and Fernanda have already provided an excellent summary. Let begin with a question. Have you ever stopped to think about how tax directly impacts not only our quality of life, but also the way we are governed? Tax as the foundation of democracy. Think of a country is a big neighborhood where everyone contributed to maintain shared space like parks, streets, and lights. Taxes are the contribution we're making to fund public good, such as school, hospital, roads, and security. Without tax, we ought be impossible to provide the services that benefit everyone. Taxes also finance democracy. Democracies need resources to function effectively. Tax ensure that governments have the means to implement public policies in areas like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. By defining the stage for tax, we reduce its dependence on private entities and ensure decisions are made for the public good, not just for those with money. Taxes are also closely connected to rights. Pay taxes give citizens the right to demand transparency and accountability. For instance, if taxes are collected to build schools, people have the right to monitor how the money is expended to demand results. This creates a balance between the state and its citizens, strengthening democracy and civic engagement. Taxes can also help reduce inequalities. Tax play a critical role in distributing health and reducing inequality. For example, when individuals pay higher taxes, can help in fund services like on healthcare and education for everyone. This making society not only more equitable, but also more harmonious. Representation is also linked to taxation. The idea of no taxation without representation reminds us that those who contributed to public finances should have a voice in decision making. From the story, the right to vote and participation politically have often been linked to the fight for fair taxation systems. So, the impact of taxes. When you see a hospital, a bride, or a public school, we are see your taxes at work. Conversely, when services fall short, it is an opportunity to question and participate actively to improve governance. In summary, taxes are more than just a financial obligation. They connecting citizens to the state, fund essential services, and arcade building a fair and democracy society. No, no, let's talking about the Rouanet Law, as it relies on taxes and serves as an example of how taxation connects with the economy and the development of a specific sector. In this case, we're talking about culture in a broader sense. How are our projects approved under the only law? The approving process of for projection is both detailed and thorough, ensure transparency and compliances at a very stage. To achieve this, projects must pass through four distinct phases. Phases 1, eligibility check. As the initial stage, the project is reviewed to verify what its aligns with the Rouanet Law's objectives. If approved, the project is a granting authorization to raise funds whenever these funds remain in restricting accounts until further validation. The pass-through technical analysis. Once at the less than percent of the tourism amount has been raised, the culture agent can adjust the projects as needed. Subsequently, it is submitted to the Ministry of Culture's relevant institution, where an expert evaluates it and provides a conclusion report. In the part 3, National Commission of Culture is 70. Every project is then reviewed by the CNAIC, when may either agree with or challenge the previous technical analysis. After a thorough discussion, the Commission reaches a final decision from a collective vote. The final program. Lastly, the Secretary of Creative Economy and Cultural Support research the project's compliancy, including fiscal, and legal aspects. Once everything is ordered, the funds raised are released, and the project execution begins under close supervision by the Ministry of Culture. So, what types of art and culture are supported, like Gustavo Brito say before me? Initially, when the law was introduced in 1991, is covering only a limited region of artistic expression. Whenever, with the 2023 updates, the scope has been significantly expanded to include a wider array of cultural initiatives. Currently, the following areas are supporting, Gustavo Brito said before me: performing act, visual arts, division arts, humanity, music, culture, heritage. Additional special categories have been introduced, including religions, art projects, focus on the art to explore spirituality, sacred symbols, and transcendency. Afro-Brazilian culture projects highlighting traditional and popular expression like a samba, maracatu, iju. And urban culture projects, showcasing street art, hip-hop, LGBTQI, mais, pride parades, and other community-based art forms. As there are restrictions on funded projects, indeed, there are strict guidelines to ensure ethical and social responsibility practice. Projects that promote production, violence, or any form of illegality are strictly prohibited. The CNRIC also has the authority to reject proposals that encourage harm to minorities or endorse socially harmful behaviors. How are artists' fields regulated? The law still some clear limits on artists' fields. Solo artists and model may receive up to 25,000 per performance. Groups and bands can receive up to 15,000 reais for performance. For request, a musician are limited to 5,000 for performance, while conductors may earn to 25,000 reais. In special case, higher amounts may be approved if the CNICD's justification appropriate. It's important to think what accessibility requirement must be met. To ensure inclusivity, all projects must comply with accessibility standards, provide accommodation for individuals with disabilities, reducing mobility on other special needs. Additionally, at least 10% of tickets or products must be offered for free. Up to 20% of tickets must be sold at a discounted price, keeping at 3 of the minimum wage. Education activities such as workshops, open hero shows, or lectures may also be made available depending on the project scale. How are projects monitored? The Ministry of Culture oversees project execution from a robust monitoring systems. Expenses must be documented electronically, and financial transactions as tracked in real and real time via DCR, I don't know, I see SALIP platform projects. Projects are categorized as small up to como fala, Gustavo, 750 mil?
750,000.
750,000, yes, thank you. Medium and 5 million reais, or large over 5 million reais with oversight tailored to this size. Does the Rouanet Law diversify funds from essential services? Contrary to common misconception, the Rouanet Law does not take and fine funds away from public service, such as health or education. Instead, it operates through taxes in incentives, allowing companies to allocate up to 4% of the income taxes to cultural projects. This mechanism ensures that no money is removed from the government's budget to fund cultural initiatives. What is the economic impact of the Rouanet Law? I think this is a great question. A comprehensive study by Fundação Getúlio Vargas, FGV, revealed the transformative economic impacts of the Rouanet Law over 33 years of more than 15 5,000 cultural projects were funded, generating an impressive 49 é forte, né, Gustavo?
49.
49.18 billion in economic activity in Brazil. For every 1 real invested in the culture projects, return 1.6 real to the economy. Showcases the law's role is to drive Brazil's creative industries and stimulate economic growth. But a fostering vibrant culture and ecosystem, the Rouanet Law not only support artistic and cultural endeavors, but also delivers significant economic and social benefits to Brazil as a whole. To conclude, my friends, the Rouanet Law demonstrating how taxation can be a powerful tool to connect the economic, culture, and social development. It exemplifies the potential of public policies to drive and grow, foster creativity, and reduce inequality. Whenever, as we reflect on its achievements, we must also consider the broader challenges of building a more inclusive and equitable system taxes. Taxes are not just a financial obligation. They represent a shared commitment to a better society. By understanding and participating in this system, we strengthen our democracy, empower our communities, ensure that progress is both sustained and fair. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to hear your those in engaging in important conversation. Thank you.
Flávio, my politician. This is my politician, my favorite politician. This is the guy. This is the guy. Thank you so much, Flavio, for your words. You
Mas, ó,
know,
Flávio,
Flavio
Gustavo.
is my friend, and we are always together. And he's also my student, and we are always having these conversations. And I'm really interested in his thesis because it's something that has a great potential to affect our understanding of taxation in Brazil, especially because he's talking about the relationships between taxation and poverty and inequality in Brazil. And I think his research can have a cultural impact in Africa as well. So, well, you see, we are very strict in time, and we got 30 minutes, and now we have 30 minutes to conclude this panel. And in this last session, I would like to open for you, all these African friends that are here, so you can ask questions to Flávio, to Fernanda. You can offer commentaries or reflections, whatsoever. Now it's up to you, my friend. And I would like to thank Yao, my friend here. I know Yao for many years. He was responsible for an event in Ghana. And I tried to go to this event for many, many years, and it never worked. But finally, last year we met,
We met,
and
yes.
it was a coincidence, and I was so happy to meet him. And
Yeah.
now I am in contact with his translator, Dixon. I invited Dixon for this panel, y'all.
Okay, yeah. I'll send him next time. I'll remind him.
I will meet him in Brasilia in March. You know,
Oh, wonderful.
I'm actually preparing to present our play because I have a theater group in Brasilia so that Dixon and his students can attend the play. We're
Oh,
trying to bring this production, trying to make it happen.
well,
So,
I'm visiting his university in February to do a series of talks, and he's also going to have the students translate portions of my novel. So it's interesting how we met in Accra, and then all of a sudden, all these connections are producing such wonderful results.
yes, it's fantastic. So, well, it's up to you now. You can ask our friends Fernanda and Flavio, offer your commentaries and reflections on the issue. That's it.
Fernanda, I have more of an observation that it's interesting. It's quite uh, a fresh breath, if I can put it that way, that Brazil or your state has the ability to support, um, you know, creators, so that even though it may not be a lot of financial support, that at least you're able to do your work with the understanding that resources are available to you. And that is quite in contrast with what you find in a place like Ghana, where state institutions, even though recognize the arts, don't have the ability or the desire to create a space so that artists and writers or whatever independently can be independent. I mean, that is getting support, state support for their work. Is this and maybe Gustavo, you can also chip in here. Is this a national policy uh, for Brazil, the Brazilian government or governments to support the arts in this fashion?
Yeah, this law that Flavio was talking about called Rouanet Law,
Mm-hmm.
this is a national law, you
Oh.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And I submitted a project to Rouanet Law, a 600,000 reais project
Mm-hmm.
we have a library here in the very heart of the city, in the center, downtown. And the library is in a complete state of abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
And the project was to revitalize the library. But the only problem is that Goiânia, my city, had a debt with the state. And so, because Goiânia had a debt with the state, I was not able to,
To
so
access that.
can you believe that? So
Yeah.
you see that the thing is complex. This law, Rouanet Law, is very complex. But we try, we try. But we have at least 5 laws that are operating. We have municipal law, we have Lei Goiás from the state, we have Fund of Art and Culture from the state, and we have Paulo Gustavo law that is emergency law, and we have Aldir Blanc that is also an emergency law. These two, as Fernanda said, they are dated to be expired. But we are trying to organize ourselves to make these laws permanent, so we have these fundings more than just 2027. But I invaded your commentary on
No, no,
Fernanda.
no. Yeah.
I don't know if Fernanda would like to answer to that. And we it's open. The microphone is open for you too, for all of you. Amara Pelu, my
Okay,
friend.
so okay, Padu here. I hope, can, look, I hope I'm not echoing. Good afternoon, everybody from West Africa. Fernanda, Flavio, beautiful presentations you both made. So very insightful. I remember our first session a month ago, and we also had a beautiful presentation from, I forget his name now.
Yuri.
Gustavo, maybe once. You?
Yuri.
Yuri. So yeah, so for me, Gustavo, like you said, I think it would be a good idea if this thing became a monthly conversation. I think if we could achieve it every month for a year, it would really go a long way, because I have really learned a lot today. And as Papayo said, my respecter, we have a problem in Africa, in West Africa, basically. It's not like we don't have the resources. The resources are there. But the thing is that the politicians, the people we put in government, even though we have ministries of culture, arts and tourism, we have all of this age. For example, in Nigeria, we have 14 cultural institutions under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. So many of them. So you wonder, what are all these cultural institutions doing? and they haven't the slightest plan, the slightest financial support by means of a grant or by means of a residency or whatever to support the artistic and creative economy and sector. What I've noticed is that the only time they are convinced, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only time they are convinced to pour money in any creative endeavor is when it has to do with them. It is when it is originating from them directly. That is when they go all the way out and they put a lot of money in the projects. But when independent actors, private actors, individuals, theater groups, literary organizations, associations, when they have proposals and they send it to these ministries, they turn a deaf ear. They are blind to it. I think that is a problem we need to address. And I like the fact that you said we need to begin to think of forming a forum. Okay, I think the creative people need to get together, form a forum, form a pressure group. And you also mentioned something, which I think is what we have failed to do, working with the politicians. If we have anybody sitting on the culture and arts committee, it is our responsibility as creative people to begin to network with them and become almost like lobbyists. I think that is the thing we really need to do. We are not lobbying enough. And so these guys are getting away with murder practically. They're funding their own projects. And for example, I won't mention specifics now. I attended so many events in Nigeria. I've attended so many events as an arts and culture writer. So they had this program in December last year at a particular space that we all know and we go to. That place hosts a lot of cultural events. It's very minimal. There's no funding. But when a government official decided to fund a cultural event, the place was totally transformed. And I could see money, being poured into this event to transform it. And that's the point I'm making, that, okay, they know how to fund their own events. They're just not interested. They don't feel responsible to the public that they are meant to serve, which is where I think we need to begin to work from. Fernanda, you've been such a very lucky artist to have had so many of your projects funded and supported. But the question I want to ask is, in your presentation, you talked about being part of approving a couple of projects and also not successful in some of the projects that you have proposed. So how is it that you are on the committee approving some projects, for some funding, and then you're also, as an individual, as a creative person, applying and then having your application turned down, or rejected? Flavio, thank you so much. I like the point you made about this tax incentive laws that we are talking about. It's not just to fund it's not just to fund culture and creative arts events just for the sake of it. It also helps in improving democracy. It helps society. By funding the creative people, you are also enabling them to help, affect society in a very positive sense. So this is the argument that I think we need to hold on to and start pushing and say, look, if you do this, in a sense, we are also helping us to help you do your job as politicians to help run society better. So thank you so very much. I don't want to take all the time, but these are my thoughts. And lastly, please, okay, now, Gustavo, this is what I'm going to do. The next time you fix a date, and I think what I think is going to be the beginning of our own push is to have more media people attend. We'll identify a couple of individuals in some media organizations who can serve as, we can just come together and say, look, we are media people. We need to begin to push this agenda. It may take us 5 years, but we have to start with media people reporting it endlessly, and then the politicians will definitely listen at some point.
Man, I thought about that yesterday.
Right. Yes.
We need media to make this happen. Yeah, we need media to make this happen. But I think Pelu asked Fernanda a little question about how does she feel when the projects are turned down. And then Flavio can talk a little bit about democracy and taxation, that I think it's so beautiful.
Thanks, Pelu. Thank you for your question. And Io also, I'm gonna try to comment both questions. Pelu, to approve one project, I lose 5. So I think it's part of the process, including those projects that I don't approve, they make me stronger. They make me improve myself, you know? So I think to myself that I got those skills with the with projects just because I've learned with my mistakes, the projects that I didn't approve. And I'd like to read here really fast, I promise. I think there is something to do with your put here in discussion. Incentive laws are an opportunity for artists to develop their autonomy, expressiveness, and artistic freedom while promoting their visibility, instigating the professionalization of the cultural sector, and democratizing access to culture. From my personal experience, I believe that if it weren't I believe that if it weren't for incentive laws, nowadays I probably wouldn't be an artist. However, the laws also present shortcomings in their applications, such as, for example, excessive bureaucracy, which takes away the chance of many, many wonderful artists having access to this financing because they have no skills to apply in a project. The concentration of resources in large projects and in certain artistic segments, the audiovisual budget, for example, is much larger than in other areas. Other thing, the lack of transparency from governments and funds to be allocated to culture. For example, there is a money from the federal government to pass to the states and to the municipes, and the states they have this amount to pass for us to laws, but they take a little part of this to do their own projects, you know.
So it goes to
Another
what
thing,
Pelu is talking about, right? In Nigeria, yes.
yeah, yeah. And the lack of guarantee of continuity of these public policies, which are always in a state of threat, depending on the goodwill of the government at the time. To conclude, I swear, incentive laws play a fundamental role in building artistic careers, promoting the creation and dissemination of works of art. However, it is necessary for these laws to be continually improved in order to guarantee monitoring over time, covering more and more artists and cultural projects. So I'd like to thank you very much, your questions, Pelu and Iol. I'd like to thank you, Flávio, for your presentation, and all of you guys for hearing me. Gustavo, thank you very much.
Fernanda, this is something that I have been reflecting. Yesterday, I was talking to my wife, should I start talking about the problems about incentive laws, or we are going to talk positively about them enough? In Portuguese, we say sell our fish. So I'll sell our fish and then I start talking about the problems. Because what Fernanda said are the real bottlenecks, where things get complicated. So many artists don't have conditions to write the projects because they are overly bureaucratic. You need to understand a lot of bureaucracy, of writing, of strategy. So you transform an artist in a bureaucrat. So we learn a lot about this legislation. So from one moment to another, we are artists creating theater, music, and in the other moment you are understanding everything about legislation, about writing with the laws, you know. So it's a hard work. It demands a lot of training, of preparation. And I think because of that, I was talking in the beginning, that in Goiânia now we have a college of production, because it needed we needed to professionalize people in terms of education. So we have a college of production from which I was a teacher, I was a professor for so many years. And Flavio, I think there was a question for you, a commentary on taxes and democracy. Could you expand a little bit on that? I love that idea.
Yeah, I want to say um, one last words to my friends, uh, Pelu and other and all of you. We need to recognize that the state also plays a role in creating demand. The state should not be perceived as something distant from the community. There is an ongoing debate about how value is created, and to this day, no consensus has been reached. Um, what we do know is that we need the state and society organizing together. We can issue credit to stimulate economic circulation, generate employment, and encouraging consumer spending, when in turn increases state revenue. This relationship between our action, tax contribution, our ability to determine our future lies at the heart of our democracy. It's not enough to simplify vote if we cannot influence in how and where the state will invest. Another important point is that Brazil doesn't have a seat in the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, or ECD. European countries making decision and expect us to follow their models, which can be seen as a form of new colonialism. When European powers withdrew from Brazil and later from African countries, they often impose financial debts, leaving a legacy of economic challenges. Therefore, discussing taxes is intrinsically linking to conversation about democracy and overcoming colonial legacies. Thank you very much for your attention, my friends.
Overcoming colonial legacies, you know. Thank you, Flavio. When I said that Flavio is my favorite politician, I really meant it. You know, I think this guy, he has it there, and has the power, because he's not just researching it, he's really doing the work of the politician. So he's learning how to interfere profoundly in our political system. Well, I think there is another commentary. I want to conclude the meeting at 9:30, so I think I have time for one or two more questions for our guests. You can go, my friend.
Thank you very much for this session. I mean, I was also at the first session last year, which I reported on the platform, the Ad Hoc. Yeah, thank you. So it's been quite expository. And indeed, I mean, I'm just amazed that, you are complaining when you have those laws there already. You can imagine those of us don't even have anything close to that. We haven't quite started in this part of our world, which is indeed a shame. But what can we do? I mean, the other translators talked about, politics, democracy and the law, or democracy and taxes, the interconnectedness. So it probably seems to me that we may probably need artists through our politicians to push through some of these things, because I mean, leaving it to the bureaucrats as it has been since African countries gain independence from their colonial masters hasn't quite helped. Because yes, I mean, like Belu said, we have the Ministry of Culture, Creative Economy, blah blah blah, and all that all over all African countries. But to date, they don't even have a culture policy. So you wonder exactly what those ministries are doing. Like you mentioned, I mean, in Nigeria, it's only when the ministry or the government has a project, which is usually a means, a conduit to siphon money, that they come out. Take a project to them that will benefit, the economy, the people, young people. They wouldn't even look at it. So should we need artists who are politicians, or politicians who are artists, to probably begin to make some inroads in this direction? That's a question I would like to be answered. Thank you.
Well, I think having politicians would be a dream, if we could have artists as politicians. But it's very hard to get artists there. So what I think is that artists should get organized. And my recommendation is that in each of the countries, in each of the capitals, the cities, you develop something called Permanent Forum of Culture. So you can map these artists, so you can start to see the geography of the artists in the city and how you can organize yourselves to have a bigger voice. So it's so important that people are together so you can have an agenda. Only individual agendas. So I have my artistic project and I will fight for that. It's not enough. We need to think about that as public policies. And I have to emphasize that these laws, they didn't come from the goodwill of governments. They came from the organization of artists that tried to push it forward, to push it through the will of the politicians. That is never to spend money on artists other than those that will support them. You see? So usually they will not finance projects that will talk against them. That's why we need the laws to protect us against the will of politicians of controlling the voices of art, So I don't know if Flavio or Fernanda would like to add something to this commentary on the artist politician. For us, it's very difficult, and Fernanda, to put one. Many of us have tried, but it's very difficult to get there. It's expensive, to be a politician in Brazil, in Goiânia, is very expensive. So, and to do politics with arts is difficult, it's tough. So it's better for us to have the power to interfere collectively. Go, Fernanda, I'm sorry.
No, it's disgust. It's very difficult to give up to be an artist to become a politic. But we need a note. We need to be there. We have to organize ourselves to put representatives there. We need this, because they who are already there, they will not do for us. We have to do for us.
Yes, for sure. I think Alexis.
Yeah, Alexis is
yes, rose the hand.
How do I? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. My name is Alexis. I'm a filmmaker and a photography hobbyist. That is, my photography is not commercial, but every once in a while people say, can I get that picture, please? And I might oblige them. Over the years in Nigeria, as an example, I'll talk about Nigeria and Togo, because these are two countries that I have been very involved in the filmmaking scene. in Nigeria over the years, there have been initiatives to fund art projects when it comes to filmmaking. And one of the biggest challenges we have had, as a matter of fact, the biggest challenge we have had is that a lot of the time we have given artists, we have given producers money for productions, and they have not performed well. So so this has become a discouraging factor for a lot of these initiatives. As a matter of fact, virtually all of them have closed down after 3 or 4 or 5 bad experiences. You know, that's a challenge. So people like Pelu, who has a lot of experience around this art sector, I have been at in a certain program with him. I'm sure he doesn't remember me. He's popular and I'm not. We need to talk to our artists. We need to train our people at working with the corporate environment. We need to make the people understand that these funds, although you might not even have to pay back sometimes, they are not free money. You must at least perform better, perform well, so that somebody else can enjoy that same facility. I'll tell you what, a lot of our producers do not understand the dynamics of funding or
I think we lost your microphone.
there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to train our people to understand that these funds, even though you might not have to pay back, are not free money, you know? So sometimes I have seen a couple of situations in Nigeria again. I'm sorry to do this, but I have to say it, where funds have been given for movies and these producers have used the funds for some other project. And then you use whatever is left to do this movie project, you know? So whoever has financed it, let me mention a name, not a name of a person, a name of an institution. When the Bank of Industries in Nigeria gave funding for movies, I remember sitting in the office of the person in charge of the funds, and she said to me, all the big names that we give funds to, they have still not paid back. But the small people that we gave little monies to do small projects, they've all paid back. Now, the reason why they would have given funds to big names is because they assume that these big names are reliable. So if the big names are not reliable, how can they invest in the future in big or even smaller names? So before we even come to the bigger fora, before we come to talk to the world about funding, we need to get together as creative individuals in this country, in Togo, in Ghana, in Liberia, wherever it is, to advise ourselves, train ourselves. Some of us have more experience than others. We should share this. I'll tell you something about here, the Nigeria experience. We are quite selfish about what we know. So I know something, it will help you. I can't spend all of the money myself, but I won't tell you. I wonder why that happens, because I've spent all of my life sharing everything I understand with people, because I believe very much that if I tell Pelu and he gets more money, I might be able to rely on him in future for something else. And then Pelu needs to help talk to our press men in Nigeria. For a long time, we spent a lot of our creative time talking about the industry like it wasn't worth a lot, like it wasn't going to be an important part of the financial economy at a point. But I'm quite happy about one thing. Recently, in the last 3 years, government has been talking so much about how much the creative economy contributes to this country. Recently, we just renovated our National Theatre, which I can tell you is one of the best in Africa. And I listened to the minister. She went on and on. We had to interview her. She went on and on about how much the creative economy is contributing. So you had about 15 banks that came together to fund this renovation because they realized there's a lot of money in this industry in the area, but it is still a disorganized setup. I can talk about this organization and why it came about, but that's going to be a story for another day. So what I will say to summarize here is we need to educate ourselves. Educate ourselves. And like you said, I think it was Sayal that said so. We need to have a constant forum that works, that we can go to, that we can rely on, that we can talk to, that we can share ideas with, that we can bandy ideas with. When I have a problem, I can come back and say, this is the problem I have. Somebody else can say, oh, I have had this experience before, and this is how you need to go about it, or this is how you need to talk about it, or this is how to approach it. Now, about government, it's quite simple. Right now, I can tell you, we have a very cooperative and enthusiastic minister up there, a lady. But you listen to her, you know she knows what she's talking about well, as in the enthusiasm of it. And it's possible that for the first time in a long time, we have someone that we can make a minister who will also be an artist. Thank you.
Fantastic, man. Well, I'm finishing the translation of this law. I have the translation of the municipal law from our city. I'm finishing the translation of this law. And I think with these laws, you should reach to your minister, you know? You should approach. So at least with this law from the city, from the municipality, and this law from the state. Because Rouanet Law is very complex, so I will need more time to prepare the translation of Rouanet Law, and the call note is very complex, so it will take more time. But these two, the municipal law and the state law, they can really be some steps, you know? So, but you need to study the document and see what is applicable, what is not applicable. You need to do a critical study of the document, you know, in order to bring it to reality, which is our dream. And I think this can be something remarkable for us. So I would like to thank my friend Fernandinha Pimenta, that is right now traveling with her play Success in Portuguese, differently from in English that we say break a leg. In Portuguese, we say shit for you. So, Fernanda, shit for you.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you, all of you that were here with us today. And the next month, I'll be with you as a listener. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Flavio. Thank you.
And I would like to thank Flavio for his speech and reflection on taxes and democracy. It's always a pleasure to listen to you speaking about these things, man. It really touches me, you know. I feel that that's the right way to consider politics. Thank you, Flavio, for your contribution to this debate. And next meeting, 1 month from here, so it's going to be on the 21st February, Saturday, 22nd, February 22nd, 1 month from now. And I will try to organize a panel about how incentive laws will impact lives of people with disabilities and minorities in Brazil. You know, because this is something very serious. LGBTQ, trans people, people with disability, people that cannot listen, people that cannot see, people that cannot move, how these incentive laws are impacting also the lives of these people. So stay tuned. And I don't know if you saw that my friend Amara is collecting your emails, so that I will create a mailing list that I will send you the translations of the laws, so that you can try to change it, transform it, and implement it somehow. And as Pelu said, we need to get visibility on the media. So as we start to do this regularly, we start to call more attention and we start to get more momentum, and that's what we need. So my friends, thanks again for your time, patience,